What if I told you that the strongest person in the room is usually the quietest one? The person who no longer needs approval, no longer chases validation, and no longer allows the opinions of others to control their emotions. Imagine waking up tomorrow and realizing that insults no longer hurt rejection, no longer destroys you betrayal, no longer breaks you and failure, no longer stops you. How different would your life be? Most people spend their entire lives as emotional prisoners, controlled by criticism, manipulated by praise, devastated by setbacks, and constantly seeking validation from people who barely think about them. But the Stoics discovered something extraordinary over 2,000 years ago. There is a level of inner strength where nothing outside of you has the power to disturb your peace, and once you reach it, your entire life changes. Stay until the end, because the final Stoic principle may completely transform the way you see suffering forever. A few years ago, a businessman lost everything. His company collapsed, friends disappeared, his wife left him, and within months he went from being admired by everyone to being completely alone. People expected him to break. But something strange happened. Instead of collapsing, he became stronger. Years later, when asked how he survived, he said, "I finally realized that everything I lost was never truly mine." That single sentence contains one of the greatest secrets of Stoic philosophy, because suffering often begins when we become attached to things we cannot control. And if you do not understand this truth, life will continue to shake you again and again. But there is another way, a way that made Roman emperors remain calm during wars, philosophers endure exile, and ordinary people overcome unimaginable hardships. The question is, are you ready to become untouchable? The first lesson is simple. You must stop giving people control over your emotional state. Marcus Aurelius once wrote that you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. Think about that. Most people surrender their peace every single day. Someone ignores their text and their mood is ruined. Someone criticizes them and they spend the entire night replaying the conversation. Someone succeeds and they suddenly feel inferior. They hand over the keys to their emotions to strangers and then wonder why they feel powerless. The Stoics believed that emotional freedom begins the moment you stop expecting other people to behave exactly as you want. People will disappoint you, people will misunderstand you, people will betray you, people will leave. Not because life is unfair, but because human beings are imperfect. The problem is not that these things happen. The problem is that you expect them not to happen. When reality refuses to match your expectations, suffering begins. Epictetus taught that if you kiss your child, remind yourself that they are mortal. Not to become cold, but to appreciate without attachment. Everything in life is temporary. Relationships, success, health, youth, reputation, everything. Once you truly accept this truth, you stop clinging. And when you stop clinging, you stop suffering unnecessarily. But there is a deeper level to this lesson, because even if you accept impermanence, there is still one enemy capable of destroying your peace, your own mind. And this brings us to the second lesson. Consider Abraham Lincoln. Before becoming one of America's greatest presidents, he experienced repeated failures. He lost elections. He suffered business failures. He endured severe depression. He experienced profound personal loss. Yet he continued. Why? Because he stopped defining himself by external circumstances. Failure became information, not identity. Pain became fuel, not defeat. Most people fail once and conclude they are failures. Stoicism teaches the opposite. Events do not define you. Your response defines you. This distinction changes everything, because once you understand it, you realize that no person, no rejection, and no setback possesses the power to determine your worth. Only you can do that. And very few people ever learn this lesson, which is why they remain emotionally fragile their entire lives. But there is an even more dangerous trap hidden inside modern society itself. The second lesson is this: train yourself to be indifferent to external validation. Modern society is built upon approval, likes, followers, status, recognition. Praise people are addicted to being seen, and because they need approval, they become easy to manipulate. Seneca warned that we suffer more in imagination than in reality today. Millions suffer because they constantly imagine what others think about them. What if they dislike me? What if they judge me? What if they reject me? What if I fail publicly? These fears imprison countless people. The Stoics would ask a simple question: why are you allowing people who cannot control their own lives to control yours? Think carefully. Most people whose opinions you fear are themselves anxious, insecure, and confused. Yet you allow their judgments to determine your happiness. That is emotional slavery. True strength emerges when your self-respect becomes internal. You know who you are, you know your values, you know your mission, and because of that, praise no longer intoxicates you and criticism no longer destroys you. Imagine the freedom. You pursue goals because they matter to you. You speak honestly because truth matters more than approval. You walk away from disrespect because your dignity is not negotiable. This is power, real power, but achieving. This level of independence requires confronting something most people desperately avoid: loneliness, because growth often isolates you. And this leads directly to the third lesson. Psychologists have discovered something fascinating human beings possess: a negativity bias. Our brains naturally focus more intensely on threats, criticism, and rejection. This bias once helped our ancestors survive, but in modern life it often sabotages us. One criticism outweighs 10 compliments. One rejection overshadows many. Successes, one betrayal creates distrust toward everyone. Stoicism offers an antidote: awareness. The moment you observe your thoughts rather than blindly believing them, you reclaim power. Your thoughts are not always reality. Your emotions are not always truth. Many people spend decades obeying anxious thoughts without questioning them. The Stoics refused to do this. Marcus Aurelius constantly examined his perceptions. He understood that events themselves are neutral. Meaning comes from interpretation change. The interpretation change your life. Yet few people are willing to practice this consistently because it demands discipline, and discipline always separates the strong from the weak. But there is one experience that can accelerate this transformation, faster than anything else: pain, and most people misunderstand its purpose completely. Pain is not your enemy. Pain is your teacher. Every great Stoic understood this. Marcus Aurelius faced wars, plagues, betrayal, and constant political pressure. Epictetus spent years as a slave. Seneca was exiled and ordered to take his own life. Yet none allowed suffering to destroy them. Why? Because they viewed adversity differently. Where ordinary people saw punishment, they saw training. Imagine a blacksmith forging a sword. The metal must endure fire pressure and repeated strikes. Without hardship, the sword remains. Weak human beings are no different. Challenges reveal character. Difficulty develops resilience. Loss creates wisdom. Rejection builds independence. Pain strips away illusion. Many people ask, why is this happening to me? The Stoics asked, what is this trying to teach me? That question changes everything, because victims remain powerless, students become stronger. The next time life hurts, you ask yourself, what quality is this experience developing inside me? Patience, courage, humility, self-reliance, discipline. The answer may transform your suffering into growth, but there is still one final truth few people are prepared to hear. Sometimes becoming strong requires losing people. Sometimes becoming strong requires losing people. This is one of the hardest truths in life to accept. Many people remain weak, not because they lack intelligence, talent, or opportunity, but because they are surrounded by individuals who constantly drain their energy, poison their minds, and keep them emotionally dependent. The Stoics understood something that modern society often ignores. Not everyone deserves access to your life. Read that again. Not everyone deserves access to your mind, your time, your energy, or your peace. Yet millions of people continue sacrificing their emotional well-being simply because they are afraid of being alone. They tolerate disrespect, they tolerate manipulation, they tolerate betrayal, they remain in toxic relationships, friendships, and environments because loneliness terrifies them more than suffering. But Marcus Aurelius warned that the quality of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. And your thoughts are heavily influenced by the people around you. Spend enough time with negative people and negativity becomes normal. Spend enough time with complainers and complaining becomes your language. Spend enough time with people who lack discipline and eventually your own standards begin to collapse. This is why growth often feels lonely. As you evolve, your tolerance for chaos decreases. You no longer enjoy meaningless drama. You no longer chase attention. You no longer need to prove yourself. And suddenly people who once felt familiar begin to feel distant. Many viewers watching right now are experiencing this exact transition. You feel different. You feel misunderstood. You feel disconnected from certain people. And part of you wonders if something is wrong. There is nothing wrong. Transformation often requires separation. The caterpillar cannot become a butterfly while remaining inside its old identity. You cannot become mentally strong while remaining attached to everything that keeps you weak. And this brings us to a remarkable story, a story that perfectly demonstrates what true inner strength looks like. A young man spent years trying to earn everyone's approval. He changed his personality depending on who he was around. He avoided conflict at all costs. He constantly said yes, even when he desperately wanted to say no. People liked him, but he was miserable. Inside, he felt empty, exhausted, and resentful. One day, after being betrayed by someone he trusted deeply, something changed. For months, he isolated himself. He began reading philosophy, journaling, and reflecting on his life. Gradually, he realized something painful. He had spent his entire life building an identity designed to please others. He did not truly know himself. So he started over. He established boundaries. He learned to say no. He stopped explaining himself. He stopped chasing people. He stopped seeking validation. At first, many people disappeared. Some criticized him. Others accused him of changing. They were right. He had changed. He had finally begun respecting himself. Years later, he said something extraordinary. The moment I stopped needing people was the moment my relationships improved. Why? Because desperate people attract manipulation. Whole people attract respect. When you no longer fear losing others, you stop tolerating behavior that diminishes your dignity. This is not arrogance. This is self-respect. And self-respect is one of the foundations of Stoic strength. But there is another quality equally essential. Silence. Modern culture encourages constant reaction. React immediately. Respond instantly. Share everything. Defend yourself. Explain yourself. Argue with strangers online. The Stoics recommended the opposite. Pause. Observe. Reflect. Choose your response carefully, because emotional reactions often create unnecessary suffering. Imagine someone insults you. Most people react automatically. Anger rises, words are exchanged, conflict escalates, regret follows. But Stoicism creates space between stimulus and response. In that space lies freedom. Epictetus taught that people are disturbed not by things themselves, but by their judgments about things. Someone insults you. Is the insult inherently harmful, or does it become harmful only when you accept it? Consider this. If a stranger calls you something completely false, would you feel offended? Probably not. Why? Because you know it is untrue. Then why do other insults hurt so deeply? Often because they touch existing insecurities. The insult reveals something unresolved within us. This realization is powerful. Your triggers reveal your unfinished work. Every emotional reaction contains valuable information. Instead of asking why people upset you, ask what their behavior reveals about you. That question can transform conflict into self-awareness. Marcus Aurelius frequently reminded himself that people act according to what they believe is right. Even those who hurt us often act from ignorance, fear, insecurity, or pain. Understanding this does not excuse harmful behavior, but it prevents bitterness from consuming us. Because bitterness hurts the person carrying it more than the person who caused it. Many people spend years mentally arguing with people who have already forgotten them. They replay conversations. They imagine revenge. They obsess over betrayal. Meanwhile, life continues passing by. The Stoics considered resentment a form of self-inflicted suffering. Holding on to anger is like drinking poison while expecting someone else to die. Real strength means releasing what no longer serves you. Not because others deserve forgiveness, but because you deserve peace. This principle becomes especially important when facing failure. Most people fear failure because they mistakenly believe failure diminishes their worth. Stoicism destroys this illusion. Failure is inevitable. Every successful person has failed repeatedly. The difference is that resilient people refuse to personalize setbacks. Thomas Edison reportedly conducted thousands of unsuccessful experiments before creating the light bulb. When asked about failure, he famously suggested that he had simply discovered many ways that did not work. That is Stoic thinking. Every setback contains information. Every obstacle contains opportunity. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Think about that. The obstacle is not blocking your path. The obstacle is your path. Your struggles are developing qualities success alone could never teach. Patience, humility, persistence, resourcefulness, courage. Without adversity, these qualities remain dormant. The strongest people are rarely those who avoided suffering. They are usually those who endured suffering and refused to surrender. And perhaps you are doing that right now. Perhaps life has tested you recently. Perhaps you have experienced betrayal, loss, disappointment, loneliness, uncertainty, or failure. If so, remember this: you are not being buried, you are being planted. The difference depends entirely on whether you continue growing, but growth requires one final shift, a shift that separates emotionally reactive people from truly unshakable individuals. You must stop identifying with every thought that enters your mind. Your mind produces thousands of thoughts every day. Many are irrational, many are fearful, many are contradictory. Yet most people assume every thought deserves attention. It does not. Stoics practiced observing thoughts without immediately believing them. You can experience anger without becoming anger. You can experience fear without obeying fear. You can experience sadness without surrendering to sadness. Emotions are visitors. They arrive, they stay, they leave. Problems begin when we build permanent homes for temporary emotions. A bad day becomes a bad life. A failure becomes an identity. A rejection becomes proof of unworthiness. This is illusion. You are larger than your emotions. You are greater than your circumstances. You are stronger than your current struggle. There is an ancient Stoic practice that has the power to make you almost impossible to break. Most people spend their lives praying that nothing bad ever happens. The Stoics did the exact opposite. They prepared for adversity before it arrived. At first, this sounds strange. Why would anyone intentionally think about difficulties, problems, or loss? Because the unexpected is what destroys people, not the event itself. The surprise. When life suddenly changes, most people panic because they secretly believed hardship would never happen to them. The Stoics knew better. They understood that loss, pain, betrayal, illness, failure, and uncertainty are not exceptions to life. They are part of life. Seneca practiced something called negative visualization. He would occasionally imagine losing his possessions, his status, even the people he loved. Not to become depressed, but to become grateful and mentally prepared. Think about how powerful this is. Most people appreciate things only after they lose them. The Stoics appreciated things while they still had them. Every conversation became precious. Every sunrise became meaningful. Every moment became a gift rather than an expectation. And when loss eventually arrived, as it inevitably does, they suffered less because they had already accepted the possibility. This is one of the greatest secrets of emotional resilience. Acceptance, not passive resignation, active acceptance. You stop arguing with reality, you stop asking why this happened, you stop demanding that life be different. Instead you ask, what now? What can I do from this moment forward, because no amount of resistance can change the past. But your response can shape the future. Marcus Aurelius faced unimaginable pressure. He ruled an empire during war-plagued political betrayal and constant uncertainty. Yet his private journal, later published as Meditations, reveals something extraordinary. He continuously reminded himself that external events cannot damage character unless he allows them to. Read that carefully. External events cannot damage your character unless you permit them. Someone can insult you. Someone can betray you. Someone can abandon you. Someone can spread lies about you. Someone can take your money. Life can take your health, your reputation, your comfort. But there remains one thing no person and no circumstance can take from you: your ability to choose your response. And that ability is where true freedom lives. Viktor Frankl, who survived Nazi concentration camps, later wrote that everything can be taken from a man except one thing, the last of human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. If human beings could preserve dignity and meaning under such unimaginable suffering, then surely we can endure the challenges of ordinary life. This does not mean suppressing emotions. Stoicism is not emotional numbness. It is emotional mastery. There is a profound difference. Numb people avoid feeling. Stoic people feel deeply but refuse to become controlled by their emotions. They acknowledge pain without becoming pain. They acknowledge fear without surrendering to fear. They acknowledge grief without losing themselves in grief. This distinction changes everything, because many people believe strength means never struggling. It does not. Strength means continuing despite struggle. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is action in the presence of fear. Resilience is not avoiding hardship. It is rising after hardship. Every great person in history has suffered. Every successful individual has experienced doubt. Every wise person has endured loss. The difference is that they refuse to allow suffering to define them, and you must do the same. There will be days when you feel alone, days when life feels unfair, days when your progress seems invisible, days when you question yourself, days when you want to quit. Those days matter, because character is not built on easy days. Character is forged in difficult ones. The world rarely rewards weakness, but life always rewards resilience. Each time you choose discipline over comfort, you become stronger. Each time you choose self-respect over approval, you become stronger. Each time you remain calm during chaos, you become stronger. Each time you refuse to surrender after failure, you become stronger. These choices seem small, but repeated daily, they create an unshakable person. Imagine yourself 1 year from now. You no longer chase people. You no longer react impulsively. You no longer fear rejection. You no longer depend on validation. You trust yourself. You respect yourself. You control your emotions rather than allowing emotions to control you. How different would your life be? The journey begins with a single decision. The decision to stop being a victim of circumstances. The decision to stop handing your power away, the decision to become responsible for your mind, because the quality of your life will always depend upon the quality of your inner world. If your mind is weak, the world will break you. If your mind is strong, the world will shape you but never destroy you. Remember this, you cannot control what people say. You cannot control what people do. You cannot control whether people stay or leave. You cannot control the economy, the weather, the past, or the future. But you can always control your character. You can always control your effort. You can always control your principles. You can always control your response. And when you fully understand this truth, something extraordinary happens. You become free. Free from approval, free from fear, free from resentment, free from emotional slavery, free to live according to your values rather than the expectations of others. That is the ultimate Stoic victory, not conquering the world, conquering yourself. Because the greatest battle you will ever fight is not against other people, it is within. And once you win that battle, very little in life can truly harm you. So the next time life tests, you remember these words. Stand firm, remain calm, protect your peace. Choose your response wisely and become so strong that nothing outside of you can shake what exists within. If this message resonated with you, write "I control my mind" in the comments below. Your comment may inspire someone else who is struggling right now. And if you want to master emotional control, build unshakable confidence, and learn timeless wisdom from the Stoics, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications because the next lesson may arrive exactly when you need it most. Remember, the strongest person is not the one who controls others. The strongest person is the one who has mastered themselves.